Doing good.
I'll find a message over the weekend.
That's in there.
We start today with interview training and our career.
Hi, welcome guys to Monday, ToolboxTalk Monday. ToolboxTalk Mondays. What letter are we on today? So last week we talked about, I don't even remember. Was it E for A, B, C, D, E,
I
F?
thought we was on G.
G, H.
We was on H now.
I'm like on I.
Are we on H?
No, we was on H
Yeah.
last week because it was about the heat and.
Oh yeah, because it was
I
like
thought we were on Y,
hydration,
you know, just
all
getting
this
over
other
it.
stuff.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah,
at
so we're on I. H-I. Okay, so we're on I. Yeah, so last week was H. We talked about hygiene, the importance of hygiene, the importance of hydration. There's like so many H.
I think it was health, hygiene, honesty, something like that.
Yeah, honesty, probably do. There's all kinds of them. We've already kind of gone over quite a bit, but there's one that kind of sticks out to me. Integrity. And I feel like we've already kind of gone over this. This is kind of an important part of like our company standard. Like the characteristics of a company, there's typically when you're advertising or when you are talking to customers, selling jobs, part of something that is like part of who your company is this would be one of our, you know, like, look, if you don't have this, you're probably not going to like work with us. Not saying you're a bad person, it's just part of, it's very important to us. And what integrity is I'm going to just say what it's not. So what integrity is not is I mean, I'm going to keep it simple. Obviously, like it could be lying, stealing, lots of other things, not being manipulative. But the thing as far as company goes, that we're trying to advertise and like our customers would want is like, look, we're not going to be dishonest about something that we're doing. You know, if we make a mistake, we're going to own up to it. We're going to fix it. You know, we're not going to try to do something that, as long as the customer doesn't know, that it should be okay. You know, like we're not trying to like get our money and leave. For the most part, you weren't going like this, like.
No, I'm just
based on this. Okay.
You're
You're like, well, sometime.
we really need to just take the money and go.
So, things that like I would look for as a manager or as a customer is being honest when you don't have to be. So what that looks like for me, and there's a difference between having integrity and being discreet, okay? So there's people who are like too honest, and like they give too much information. Like, look, I don't want to know like why you're late. I just want you to apologize for being late and don't do it again, you know. Or the other is like, hey, look, the car overheated. I had a flat tire. You know, these three things happened. Maybe they happened, maybe they didn't. I don't know. All I know is that you're late. Customer knows that we are late, and our response, if we have integrity, is not being deceitful or not choosing not to lie about what we're doing. So there's ways you can go around that. As a manager, what I'm hoping for is like if somebody made a mistake, obviously there's always like, dang it, I did something wrong. Nobody saw it. Nobody, frankly, probably nobody cares about the mistake unless it affects other people. If it affects somebody else, integrity is, I know this is going to affect somebody else. I need to either let somebody know or fix it to where it didn't happen. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean everybody has to know about it. It's just like, look, if somebody else was there, then how would you have done this differently? You know, integrity is kind of like knowing that the customer is over your shoulder, and it's your job to like keep the customer happy, to keep Josh happy, keep Joe, Ben, you know, Cody, whoever's running the job. Like if they were watching you when you're by yourself in a room, how would you have done this thing differently? Integrity is kind of knowing that somebody's always watching, and like what we do should measure up to the people that are watching. Okay, so just being aware of that. Things that I think are good to work on when it comes to those things is, you know, for us as a company, is having integrity when, you know, you're taking your lunch break. It's very easy to stretch a, you know, 30-minute lunch break into an hour lunch break and still say you took 30 minutes, you know. I'm very thankful to almost all of you guys. Like, you're always probably like doing it the other way, where you'll either make it up or do something to where I don't feel like anybody's ripping the company off. But those would be areas where nobody actually knows, so you can put down whatever you want to, you know. But choose to have integrity in like how long lunch breaks are. I'm not saying you have to take a 30-minute lunch. You can take an hour lunch, as long as like that's what shows up on your time. You know, like, so if you're telling somebody, like typically during the summer we try to work 8.5, 9-hour days, except for Alec. But typically, like you know, when you get to the job, if you're kind of bullshitting around or visiting for 30 minutes and not necessarily working, like when did you actually start? Like when were you being productive versus just showing up and clocking in? You know, things like that. Having integrity to where, like, if somebody went over your actions, what are they going to say is legit, and what are they going to say is kind of like sketchy? You know, on a job, something that's tied in with integrity, but maybe doesn't necessarily fall under it, is taking responsibility as a team. And I've seen Cody doing this, and I've seen Ben and Joe do this as well, and that's part of why they're crew leaders. But so say everybody's rushing around, end of the day, the job site gets left not clean, okay? So you can have two choices when it comes to those things. You can either take some of that responsibility and be like, yeah, we need to do better, you know, or you can be, well, I told this guy to clean it up, he didn't do it, you know. Technically, that's probably true, to where, like, okay, one person is at fault. But integrity is kind of knowing, like, look, I was technically here, I could have followed up, I could have done a little bit more, as far as those things go. And then kind of the last thing that I feel like is an important part of what we kind of represent is being honest about a mistake. I mean, we already talked about it, but our motto isn't we're going to do everything right. Our motto is going to do whatever it takes. Okay, and I feel like we've had to learn, like, by doing something that we should have done right the first time several times. But integrity is being like, look, we know that the customer paid us for this. We're going to do it right, even if it's costing us money, because customer paid us, they expected this, and it's our job to figure out how to get to that point. Okay, and so it's annoying. It's not fun at times, but it does pay off in the long run when it comes to having integrity. Okay. Questions? Comments?
I would just say use your integrity to inform a foreman or a project manager of a mistake almost 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time, because there's judgment calls typically involved with time and labor and or materials and expenses. They can either they can address faster or cheaper than labor or time, or the inverse. So I know Dana would say like you make a mistake, you deal with it, and that doesn't always mean that it needs to be addressed or brought up or talked about.
Yes.
But I would say most of the time it's best for the foreman or project manager to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, we've ran into situations where people were very well meaning.
So they can help.
Yeah, they were well meaning. They made a mistake. They tried to fix it, but their fix wasn't really like a fix. So like it's better to give somebody a call there. Look, I tried to hang this door. This isn't working. Like I've worked on this for 3 hours. It's a 1 hour project.
Well, it's like when you fuck a toaster.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
Even
yeah,
if
it's
nobody
fine.
sees. Yeah.
It'd be like, remember when I broke that expensive tool out of the Utah
Yeah.
job?
Yeah.
If I tried to cover that up and I was like, no. I just brought it to you and I was like, sorry.
Well, and I mean, this was part of
We
why
all
we
lived.
parted terms. Because the other person did not want to admit that anything happened. Even though I heard him yell when it happened. But, I mean, so yeah, integrity is good for us as a company, it's good for our customers, it's good for us as teams. Like, I'm hoping, like, I have tried my best to have a reputation of being honest and admitting my mistakes. People will work with people who make mistakes if they're willing to fix them. Obviously, if you make a whole bunch of mistakes, it's going to get old, but they will work with you on those things. So it should have integrity in the workplace. I mean, the same for OSHA. Like, if OSHA came up to us and they're like, "Hey, why aren't you harnessed off?" I mean, sometimes the right answer is, I know I have the equipment. I was just this is what happened. I do know the right process. They're going to do that. They might be able to like have some mercy or have some leniency as long as you show that like you actually know what you're supposed to be doing. Obviously, their interest is for people who might get hurt. So anyway, that's the I.
Right to say stuff.
That is the I in the alphabet.